If you are looking to have your statutory declaration, affidavit of income, identity, damage or lost passport, lost license, tenancy agreement, agreement of settlement, power of attorney, last will and testament, and certification of documents, then you need to visit the Alistair Collins firm, located at the Killian Mall, 162 Lamaha Street in Georgetown, between Camp and Waterloo Street. Alistair Collins is a commissioner of oaths and a justice of the peace. Make certain you visit him or call for more information at 649-6410 or 685-6448 or 503-1451. And there's adequate parking available. Go down to the Alistair Collins firm and have all of your legal issues settled and brought to the fore. Alistair Collins firm. Contact them at Alistair Collins firm.
Hi.
Is the State Department currently preparing to engage with the Biden transition team? And if not, at what point does a delay hamper a smooth transition or pose a risk to national security?
There will be a smooth transition to a second Trump administration. All right? We're ready. The world is watching what's taking place here. We're going to count all the votes. When the process is complete, there'll be electors selected. There's a process. The Constitution lays it out pretty clearly. The world should have every confidence that the transition necessary to make sure that the State Department is functional today, successful today.
It means that we would not have gotten the statements of poll for every polling station. To be honest, the People's Republic Party have only a handful of statements of poll. The people who will have statements of poll for all the polling stations would be the large parties, which would be the coalition and the PPPC, because they would have been able to send scrutineers to all the polling stations. So let me say that that verification process that we are hoping GCOM will have to return to complete will be largely between the coalition, that is the SOPs that the coalition has, and the SOPs that the PPPC has. Because the small parties only have a smattering of SOPs. Now, having said that, let me let you know that we small parties were given handouts with collated versions of the SOPs. We were very kindly given, because when we said, well, because we didn't have scrutineers at all the stations, I can tell you that one of the big parties very kindly offered us copies of a handout that had collated the results from the SOPs. Now, let me tell you, in the spirit of transparency, that as the presidential candidate for the PRP, I had a look at those results. It wasn't an in-depth look because our election agent has that collated copy that we got from one of the big parties in her possession. But I can tell you this much. When I had a look at it, I was surprised because I saw results on it that did not bear out the results that I had from the smattering of SOPs that we collected at the polling stations.
If you not take a taste, go to get a dark food, you could taste some bite too. We got nice dark food, kind of chip. All the woman was a man is dark. You could come and get a dark food for your husband. Everybody get a choice. We know deprive nobody. Uncle, you get a dark food, chip, sell out right away. We get a dark food, 200, 300 to the special. Where do you love chopping there and the sun's tired?
What's going on? What's going on?
She come and preach the whole day yesterday and we are preaching the man. I get the people of Guyana and run some poor y'all in here. Don't feel and you and everybody.
Why?
All right. Hey, guess what? Good evening. Village Voice. The Village Voice is on the screen, right? I hope you folks out in Guyana are picking up, are purchasing, buying a copy of the Village Voice newspaper every Sunday morning. You've got to get yourselves copies of the Village Voice newspaper, a newspaper that writes for you in terms of your language, what you want to hear, the truth. You don't want others to interpret the truth for you. You don't want others to interpret the news for you, right? That is why it is important to go out and grab yourselves copies of this newspaper, the Village Voice. It's only $140, 140 Guyana dollars. Come on, get your copy, build on this newspaper, make it stronger. Remember, the installed regime, they're not placing ads in this newspaper. And you all know why. They're not going to. Well, they should. In fact, they should be forced to advertise in entities that basically reflect the views of your community. And I hope to see not PPP ads. Those ads, those state ads do not belong to PPP. They belong to the people. It is your tax dollars. And if billions of your tax dollars is being spent in other entities, other newspapers, propaganda, radio stations, and these sort of things. So help me God, why can't it be spent in yours as well? Or even here as well? Not for PPP propaganda, not for government's propaganda from the installed regime. It's not going to be accepted. But agencies' ads ought to be distributed in a fair manner. It is not right now. And hundreds of millions of your tax dollars going into propaganda of the PPP, whether it's MCN, whether it's Bobby Ramroop radio and television and all these different things, that is what is happening with your tax dollars. Meanwhile, people like us are not getting anything, not even crumbs. It is not like we're going to accept crumbs, right? Because that is what they feel certain people are entitled to. give them a little handouts, give them a little crumbs, and they're going to shut their mouth. That is what they say. Give them some crumbs, man, and they're going to shut their mouth. Anyways, good evening to all of you. It's Tuesday evening, and I'm solo this evening. Solo because I want to be solo. Not because I rushed off of another program in order to be here with you guys, right? But I want to take this opportunity to give you guys that chance. I want to hear what some of you or all of you are thinking about this 1 year of the installed PPP regime being where they are, not by the will of the people. You heard what that pastor lady said. In the interest of transparency, let me make this clear. As president of the whatever she is, presidential candidate, she has admitted, and we haven't heard from her since then, other than she went and a man take a ring and put it in her finger. And that's it. Congratulations to the pastor. She got married. It's okay. She got married. But we haven't heard anything about her since then. You know why? It is highly likely that the PPP pushed her in the back burner. That the PPP were not comfortable with what she had to say about those SOPs. She said, basically, without not wanting to name the PPP, because it is the PPP folks who gave those small parties, those fry fish parties, their version of the SOPs, what they, the PPP, placed in those SOPs, and they started to distribute it amongst the smaller parties, the very, very tiny parties. And her party got one. And she admitted that when she looked at those SOPs, and when I compare it to what we had at the polling station, they were different. Let me tell you, in the interest of transparency. Father, forgive me for mocking a pastor. Forgive me for mocking a pastor. Because that mocking pastor, with an M, mind you, right? That mocking pastor is mocking us. Believe that we are foolish, that we are a bunch of dotish people, and that we cannot read between the lines. That what the PPP did was basically hand out all versions, their versions of SOPs, in order to make it look as though the elections was actually rigged by the coalition, the APNU AFC coalition. That was the work from the beginning. They were planning this thing. And look, in terms of rigging, you got to give the PPP credit for rigging, man. You got to give them credit for corruption and all these things because they know how to do it well. They are good at corruption. They are good at rigging. Until when they get caught sometimes. But they are good at that. They have been rigging for a long time. Long time. Way before I was born, they were rigging. They robbed Hamilton Green of some seat in MacDoom area or whatever. They robbed another guy. They're robbing people of seats. But in modern times, forget about the 1992 October 5th elections. Forget about that. For now, at least. We know what transpired. We knew that it was regime change. When Desmond Hoyt, then president, agreed for Jimmy Carter, former president of the United States of America, they were there. He was there with his team, the Carter Center, and they agreed. They agreed for this new formation of GCOM, the composition of GCOM. They agreed to all of these things. And you remember it was then Hamilton Green run out in public, and he said that Desmond Hoyt was behaving like a schoolboy and all these different things. But people do change over the years. Hamilton Green said that we must not hang our dirty linens in public. Put that aside. He is correct, mind you. He is correct at this time. He is correct. But in 1997, the PPP rigged the elections. I want their supporters to know, to hear this, that even though, yes, quite a few of their supporters do know that the PPP, and let me take this time out to salute everyone, every single one. Someone who designs t-shirt actually sent this t-shirt and is saying that there's a possibility that t-shirts, Trenchy t-shirts will be out and sale in Guyana. I don't know when. Trenchy t-shirt. Hey, you can't stop Guyanese at all. Let me say hi to Gail Henry. Gail Henry in Colorado. She's listening to us. Good evening to you, Gail Henry, all the way in Colorado. We have Guyanese all over the globe. Look at this t-shirt, guys. Trenchy. Trenchy t-shirt. Are you guys going to buy, Norma Jones? How are you doing? Are you guys going to buy this t-shirt, Linda Booker? Huh? Winston Boucher, what's going on, man? Are you guys going to buy this t-shirt? Trenchy t-shirt? I don't know. Trenchy. Hey, Guyanese are something else, man. Trenchy t-shirt. Trenchy. I hope our operator gets that off the screen, man. Trenchy t-shirt. Trenchy t-shirt. Good evening again to all of you, those of you who are now joining us. Hey, what else can we talk about? We are talking about the rigging of the elections, right? And we know that the PPP rigged the 2020 elections. I was talking about the 97 elections, which they rigged, right? They rigged the 97 elections. And it wasn't until 4 years after that the court actually ruled that the elections were basically null and void. And so the judge then was Claudette Singh, and she vitiated the elections. She struck those elections out on the basis of a minor amount of fraud compared to all the evidence of fraud that we have seen as a result of what came out at the convention center. You know, something else. Imagine all the fraud. And there's a reason why we played in the beginning this idiot.
Hi.
Is the State Department currently preparing to engage with the Biden transition team? And if not, at what point does a delay hamper a smooth transition or pose a risk to national security?
There will be a smooth transition to a second Trump administration.
Just listen to that guy. There would be a smooth transition to a second Trump administration, even though the people voted Trump out of office. You're listening, and those are the people who love to lecture people. Those are the people, that same guy who doesn't believe America is about multiculturalism. In other words, to hell with the black people. All of the black people, including our Indian brothers and sisters, to hell with them. That is what Mike Pompeo, was actually saying. But at that press conference, he said that there will be a second Trump administration. Could you believe that? A second Trump administration. And this is supposed to be a big democracy. And those were the guys who were lecturing people in Guyana. They were lecturing the David Granger-led administration, lecturing them, threatening them, and all sorts of things, threatening judges, threatening the Guyana Elections Commission chairman, threatening commissioners at the Guyana Elections Commission. Those are the things those guys, that guy, they were up to. Threats upon threats upon threats upon threats. When judges could not have rendered the right decision in the cases that were in front of them, whether at the appellate court level or whether at the Supreme Court level or at the the Caribbean Court of Justice. All those judges were operating under duress. No ifs, ands, or buts about that. It is a fact. And you know, one day, all of the evidence will come out. Every single one of the evidence will come out. Don't be fooled, my friends. Do not be fooled into believing that the PPP doesn't know that they have rigged the elections. They know it. But most of their supporters do not know it. But the evidence will one day come out. I hope some judges will come out and say that they made decisions out of duress, as a result of duress. They were intimidated by people like Mike Pompeo. That is why there's an installed regime today. That is precisely why. There is an installed regime, not because of democracy, not because of transparency, not because of a democratic process. They bullied the David Granger-led administration. They bullied my good friend David Granger out of office. I know that's a ticklish subject for some of you, right? Because some of you believe that David Arthur Granger, His Excellency, should have stayed there and fight. You know, like Sherrod Duncan, there's something about Sherrod Duncan, how he says the word fight. Fight! Let's fight! Right? Good evening to you, Sherrod. Let's fight! Right? There are a lot of you who are probably watching and listening right now believe that David Arthur Granger should fight. Fight! It's easy to say fight. Right, Lemon? Easy to say fight. Let's fight. Like Sherrod Duncan say, let's fight. People are saying come out tomorrow. I assume, sorry, that you're talking about the Square of the Revolution, the protest day, right? All right, here's what's happening. You've got to go out and support those brave members of parliament, the ones who believe and go out there, not just for the camera, and smile and put on a little makeup and thing for the camera. Hello. Right? Go on. Not all of them are like that, man. Some of them get vexed when I tickle them a little. They don't like to be tickled, you know. And if you're a politician, you got to get your little tickling. You got to get your little tantalizing. You think it's 2 cents tantalizing. I got a lot of tantalizing. And it's like water and ducks back for me. So you politicians, you members of parliament in the opposition, y'all don't get vexed when people tickle y'all a little bit. Go out and protest more, not just for the camera. Go out there and talk. It doesn't matter whether handcuffs go on you or not, and you're arrested for an hour, 2 hours, or a day or two, or whatever. It comes with the territory. Don't be afraid. Go out. Those who don't want to protest, and they're sitting there collecting taxpayers' money as members of parliament for the opposition, y'all bet as we see on the quarantine, go out and protest. And all of you, the thousands of you who have lost your jobs, don't sit and just wait for the MPs them to go out and protest. You join them as well. You go out as well. Or you pull them out. You call them out to protest with you. And so tomorrow, they're back at the Square of the Revolution. But let me say this. I've never said this before. I want to see numbers tomorrow at the Square of the Revolution. I think they're out there. Somebody can give the timing. Around midday time. Right? Around midday time. Around midday time. Right? Go out and support them. I want to see the numbers tomorrow so that we can carry it right here on 107.1 FM. We want to carry the protest. We want to encourage the members of parliament for the opposition to go out and protest, not just at the Square of the Revolution. We want to see members of parliament for Region 10 protest in Ituni so that we can highlight to the world what is happening in Ituni, what is happening right now in Kokwani, what is happening in Bartica. Don't just confine the protest at Square of the Revolution in front of coffee alone. We want to see what is happening in Berbice on the quarantine. We want to see the protest there too, because people are suffering in those areas, not just Georgetown. But yes, I agree with the protest in Georgetown. But what should happen is that representatives for other regions, members of parliament for other regions, should have a protest Monday, then Tuesday, and then Georgetown is Wednesday, and then another place is Thursday, and then another place is Friday. Protest every single day across the country, every single day. That is how it ought to be done. That is how it should be done. I don't know. But I guess I am just a talk show host, right? People like to have tactics, and they love to talk about tactics. So the 1997 elections were rigged. The 2001 elections rigged. The 2006 elections rigged. And they got caught in the 2006 elections. That is when the AFC got on board. The Alliance for Change. Raphael Trotman, young. Ramjatan, fresh. Out of the PPP. Trotman out of the PNC. Because Ramjatan couldn't get along with Jack Dale. Trotman couldn't get along with Corbyn. And Trotman walked away from the PNC. And together, these two guys formed the Alliance for Change, hence the AFC. Hence the AFC, right? And so in the 2006 elections, the PPP, Sam Hines, they robbed the Alliance for Change a seat in Region 10. And for 5 years, Sam Hines sat on that stolen seat. So the point is, these people know about rigging. They sit and they plan the rigging way ahead of time. That is what they do. They plan their rigging. They plan and they plan and they plan. That's how they do it. They don't sit and waste time. They don't sit and take all their dirty linens, dirty bokta, dirty, right? And bra and all these things and throw it out there and say, let's fight. Or as the youngster for the APN UFC page, Afternoon Rush. Oh gosh, you guys know his name, man. It's at the tip of my tongue. Randolph, right? Critchlow. Say, unpack. So you unpack your dirty linens and then you say, let's fight. I like those two guys. They're consistent, right? And kudos to what they do. This is not knocking at them with let's unpack and let's fight. But the point that I'm making is that the coalition, they got to stop throwing out Bokta and all these sort of things and fight publicly and believe that that is the good thing to do, to fight each other and bring each other down. And now they're a political party. Talk show hosts might be able to do that and get away with it, right? And so the PPP sit on their plan, how to rig, how to be masters of corruption. They sit and they plan these things. I don't know if the coalition doesn't plan. I don't know. But what I do know is that they fight a lot. Let's fight. Fight. I see that they have eased up with the fighting, which is good, and I commend them for that. Some of them, some of them basically are very thin-skinned to be in politics. They're very thin-skinned. I don't know. So we want to find out, and that's why we have a number 917-714-1082. People can tell us how they feel about the situation. But before we get to, let's go all the way to Borbice. We have JR Crawford. We want JR to tell us a little bit about this 1 year anniversary. JR, good evening. What's going on?
Good evening, everyone. How you doing?
Quite well, thanks.
I'm okay so far.
Yep. Good to hear from you. 1 year anniversary, my friend. 1 year anniversary. I know you're like your father, but unlike your father would stop at some point. He was a powerful lawyer, big mouth. But let me give you 2 minutes, 2 minutes or 2.5 minutes to talk about the 1 year of the installed PPP regime. There you go.
Mark, I mean, everyone with an honest thinking can see that this 1 year is nothing short of a total disaster. And, I'm still kind of surprised at the behavior of the international community towards the people who supported the coalition government. And if you do a proper assessment of what this administration has been doing as compared to what the coalition did for the country in 5 years, or probably 3 years if you want to look at it that way, I am surprised they haven't stepped in to stop this nonsense. I mean, we are having a broad daylight raping of our economy, total human rights violation. And, if you look at the COVID situation, if you look at the investment that they're trying to do, there's no accountability for it. What is going to happen to the coming generations? How are we going to pay back for all these loans that they're taking? They're not doing anything progressive. But the most hurtful part is the human rights violation. And not only the black race being prejudiced against, it's also the other races that supported the coalition. And, we were seeing all these entities run around during the election time, and now they're all missing in action. And, like someone told me, democracy does not come with peace. If you don't fight with democracy, you're not going to have it. And what I've noticed on the coalition side, the leaders they're not consistent with the pressure. And that's a big bump in the road for the coalition group. They need to learn to become more aggressive and continue to do it on a daily basis.
Let's take a pin for a moment. What exactly do you mean by more aggressive? I know a lot of them are watching right now, but you're out there. You're talking on behalf of maybe thousands of people who share your very sentiments. But what do you mean by more aggressive?
Look, if you want to be a leader and you have the country's betterment at heart, you have to, when you set out your goals, like you were speaking about the PP, they're relentless in whatever they do, regardless of their methods of doing it to get to the top. The coalition, many of the group, they're going to make some noise for a week and then they disappear for a month. You cannot be a formidable party or in leadership position if you don't have consistent performance. It's like a race. You can't just sprint for a furlong and then expect to the finish for a mile. You have to run the whole race. The coalition leaders lack the killer instinct. I don't know if it's by ethnicity or it's by laziness. But if you want to be leader,
I got you in terms of their leadership style. They seem to have that lazy sort of approach in terms of going out there and being forceful.
Yes, they're reactive. You can't be reactive in today's society.
Yeah.
You have to be proactive.
So what do you mean by you don't know if it's because of ethnicity or whatever? What exactly do you mean by that?
Because it's a known fact that some people are reactive, some people are proactive. They wait until something happens, then they started, like some people know it's going to rain and they wait until the rain started drizzle, then they're going to look for shelter. Look for it now, so when it comes, you're dry. We can't be playing around with the future of this country, knowing that so many people are getting hurt, either emotionally, physically, or economically, and we're not doing anything. If you're not going to be there
let us get this
consistent basis.
Yeah, let's get this straight.
Let somebody else do it.
Let's get this straight, Mr. Crawford. You're saying that they're not being consistent, and I agree with you, and I know most of our listeners agree with you as well, that they're not consistent. The little that they're doing now, and those few who are doing whatever they're doing, we commend them. We don't want them to feel that we're knocking them, but the bulk of them aren't doing anything. And when one or two of them step out to do something, they're not consistent. I agree with you with that. They're not consistent.
One of the problems the coalition have too is when somebody decides to take the fight, the senior members, some of them always try to undermine that person. They always seem to have a grudge or a chip on their shoulder, and they want to sideline somebody who is trying to do something. Either it's because of the friendliness with the opposition or the lack of forcefulness in themselves. I don't know, whatever the reason. But my thing is the younger blood that support the coalition, they should demand that if you know that you cannot handle the pressure, step aside. The older folks in the party are hanging on to power, and it's hurting the country. Because if you don't have a formula party to fight whatever is there now, by the time you get there, there will be nothing left for us to build upon.
Now, let me stop you for a moment.
And it seems like
because this is getting a bit ticklish, Mr. Crawford, and you're becoming somewhat controversial. Just a reminder, it's okay to be controversial. 40 minutes after.
Speak my mind. I'm not afraid of anybody.
No. I'm not saying that you're afraid of anything. The Crawfords are never afraid of anybody. Never. JR, 1 second. You said that the older folks, let me make this clear, man. Any political party needs the older heads as well. And so I am not in agreement that the older folks should go, because there are some young people. One second, comrade. I will say this, comrade.
There are some key players in this party that is hampering the coalition's effort.
I would say this to you.
Know that. I'm not going to sugarcoat it.
I would say this to you. I'm not denying. I'm just saying, people are fighting for you. People say, speak your mind, speak your mind. Of course, JR is allowed to speak his mind, right? But I want to make a point of being a bit facetious as well, that the older folks, there are some older folks in the party who believe that they belong there and that it is their God-given right, and nobody else could come on, and who is the one who is Crawford for come, he now come, and that's the mentality in every political party, right? But there are some young people. There are some young people. 1 second, comrade. Let me finish my point. People are agreeing with you, and I'm not cutting you from speaking. But there are some young people. Oh gosh, that some of these young people, I would prefer to have them older folks for another 100 years than to have some of them young people right now. But continue.
You're correct, but for those who may be annoyed or saying that where I came from, I have earned the right to speak because of the contribution of my father, my mother, and my grandparents. They might not have been vocal, and I earned the right to echo whatever I feel. Now, I am not saying.
So you're not afraid. You're not afraid to speak. Like nobody gonna take away food from you if you speak.
Dude, listen.
Go ahead, Crawford.
I don't go to the government or the opposition for anything to eat or to drink. What I am concerned about is the direction of the country and what is going to be there for our future generation. I have lived my life long enough, and if I die tomorrow, I am happy. I've enjoyed my life. But what are we leaving for the younger generation? If we sit back and wait for time to pass by, the poor folks are going to get poorer. We're going to have a division in this country that cannot be corrected for about 50 years. Is that what we want? After 55 years of independence, what do we have to show for it? There is no development, there is no proper structure, foundational for us to build upon. All you can see about is a selective few who are living a large life, and the poor people are constantly sitting on the ground. Is that what we want for our country? If a politician takes a leadership role and can't make a difference, he or she must be honest with themselves and say, I cannot make a difference. Let somebody else go forward. They can back them up if they truly believe in the betterment of the country. If not, get out. You can't be rolling around when you're in office and people try to get to you, you have an attitude. That's not the way. The office belongs to the people of the country.
Let me ask,
not the elected official.
Why do you suppose that those members of parliament, now forget about the installed PPP regime. We're talking about the coalition, the members of parliament now. Why do you suppose most of them, members of parliament, forget about the leadership, the members of parliament, why do you suppose they're afraid, most of them are afraid to come out and protest?
Because as soon as you do something that is not as party structured, you're being sidelined. You're being cautioned to be quiet. If you look from last year election to now, they have senior members who are being sidelined or silenced. There are some people who are being silenced for years, just because the way they go about their business, and they might be blunt, did not fit well with the senior old folks. There are few of them. If you look at certain conversation that been leaked out in the media, there are people who was being silent and had very, very big positions, and they could not operate. And there was one individual who claimed that the coalition never advanced their base, and he was 100% correct. But there are other people who silence them when they are trying to operate. They are saying you must be structured. No.
And there are some who,
because at the end of the day, the support base must be taken care of.
Some who,
when you look at the emancipation, how could you or this country celebrate emancipation? Look where we were, and look what happened. And it's not only for black people; it's for anybody who does not align themselves with the PPP. And a lot of people don't understand there are other races that are getting hurt.
I do see I do see your point. Some were silent.
The coalition needs to either stand up or dismantle themselves, because you can't be playing around with people's lives.
I get your point.
That's why I asked a few programs back if the coalition never made friends when they were in office. It seems like they were always about themselves, and they haven't aligned themselves with anybody internationally that will help them in case of an emergency. They got too big for their britches.
You know, Mr. Crawford, you are correct in terms of some. One second. You are correct that some were silent indeed, by choice. Some were not forced to be silent, but they were enjoying whatever they were enjoying, and they preferred to be silent so that they can continue to enjoy that. Now they're no longer enjoying that. Some of them are walking out to say that they're speaking out now, and this, and leadership problems, and all these sort of things. But some of them were part and parcel of the very problem they're complaining about. Some of them are no different about the person whom they're complaining about, right? But like I said, I'm just a talk show host. You're a caller. I've invited you to be on for a few minutes. Let me not take that away from you. Continue, sir. Express yourself.
No, what I would like to see, if we are going to come up with a group of people who are going to be leaders and have Guyana's growth at heart. Let them be. Give them the reins. Everybody operates with their own style. You can't have people muzzled and expect to have progress. At the end of it all, even the PPP supporters, they are going to be suffering, and they are suffering because of the way the government, the current administration has been operating. And it's been doing that for 20-something years prior to this. And the people are not seeing that for us to get better, we have to come together. And for you to win and win big, you have to be forceful at all times. You can't just be running up for a week and then disappear. And the Guyanese people are putting pressure on the overseas-based Guyanese for actions to help them. No, it has to start here. And they don't have no love for each other. They're all dog-eat-dog world, and they're selling their dignities for $10,000 and $20,000. Look at the backbone of the PPP. All the henchmen, 98%. Look at who makes that up. Look at the police force with the complaints. Look who they are. Nobody cares about the country. Everybody cares about how big their bank account is going to get and live the lavish lifestyle. And the coalition had the opportunity when they were there to clean up the mess, but they dragged their feet again. And they always say, do not look a gifted horse in its mouth. Look how we were going as a country, going upwards. Look where we have gone in 1 year. We have a person there to present the country's image. Look at the image of the country. We are the laughing stock of the Caribbean.
When you look around in terms of leadership, the combined opposition, that is, leadership, let me give you the parliamentary opposition, mind you. How would you rate the opposition leader over this 1 year period?
Mr. Harmon?
The opposition leader.
He could have been a lot more forceful, like I said. There are days when he's there. Sometimes you have to be prodded for him to get going. He needs to be there on a constant basis. When you're in those positions, you don't worry about gray hairs. You don't worry about rest. You have to hit the road every day. They're not doing it. The younger parliamentarians, yes, some of them are making a lot of effort.
Some
trying to fill a hole that was there from the senior echelons.
Some of them, indeed. Some of them.
If Mr. Harmon, the workload is a lot, then he finds the right people and delegate the work and make sure you touch all the regions on a constant basis. And one of the things the coalition never did was to return to their roots when they got elected in 2015. There are many places they forgot. They never kept the base informed or in tune. And when the time comes, they're running back to it. No, people are getting fed up. This is not the old days where you're going to have blind loyalty. They have some second-tier people that should not be there. They're snakes.
Snakes.
All they're concerned about is getting monies in their pockets. Like I said, I don't care. I mean, I don't look out of my window or walk with my head behind my back. It's sad to see. Look at Guyana. Look at the rest of the Caribbean. Look how we are living. 100 years and Guyana will still be the same place. And everybody have this foolish mentality about little Dubai. Where? With these politicians?
Okay.
Look at the monies that are spent. Where is the proof for it? Where is the progress?
Before we get back to that, some folks seem to be surprised when you, like Brennan Thompson. Good evening. Brennan Thompson saying snakes? What? Wow. Well, some of us were telling them about the big snake that was in the coalition that ended up voting in that no confidence motion against them. No confidence motion. There was a snake. Don't think that the coalition still doesn't have snakes, but you know
there were 4 more in that group.
But
there were 5 of them that was stopped.
But you know what, JR? We can go on and talk and talk and talk and talk, but the opposition needs to get its act together. They need to be consistent. But I give the few who are trying, the few MPs who are out there who are trying, I give them credit for that. But the bulk of them need to come out, not occasionally, not come out when
everybody needs to pitch in to make work easier. But look, a simple thing: the ones that have had the position that are no longer there, they're not doing anything for the party. They're enjoying the good life. You've gotten so much out of being a minister or something. Return some of that to the very people that helped you. No. All selfish from the start.
You know what, JR? There were some ministers of the coalition government that during the course of elections campaign, they weren't concerned about campaigning. In fact, they hung up gloves. They didn't want to campaign. They don't want to go out there and work. You know why? Because their names were not on the list to return as members of parliament. They were not sure whether they were going to return as ministers and so forth. And some of them were vexed. So they were not concerned about campaigning. In fact, they didn't campaign.
Immensely. But that's what I'm saying. They're dirty-minded. They benefit financially so much, yet they cannot give back to the people. You know, those are the things that you're.
I want to ask you this question, Mr. Crawford.
People in leadership positions.
And for those who are listening to us on the ground, 107.1 FM, on the line with us is J.R. Crawford. He's no stranger. I can't wait for your horse track to reopen so that folks can go out and support J.R. Crawford racetrack at Alness Village on the quarantine. We understand all of the problems, and there are lots of problems the coalition has. But what would you like to see them do from a positive standpoint in the next 1 year? Because local government elections is coming up. They can't get caught with their pants down. They have to have a proper plan in place, because when they were in office, they didn't have a proper plan, and they were beaten at the local government level. At least that's what the results showed at the local government level. In fact, Buxton Falls NDC, probably for the first time in decades, is controlled by the PPP. Buxton Falls NDC, controlled by the PPP. So what do you suggest that they can do to better themselves in the next 1 year as they prepare for local government elections? Because let them don't tell their supporters that election is going to be held or this petition is going to be dealt with and all these sort of things. Let's be realistic. The PPP is fighting every day for the elections petition not to be heard. And we all know why, because the PPP is corrupt and they have rigged the elections. And there are some elements within the coalition who themselves don't want that elections petition to be heard, who themselves did certain things to stymie that process. But again, I'm just a talk show host, right? But what would you like to see them do that is positive for the next year?
Mark, they need to get back to the consistent basis. They need to have the right people. If somebody is not willing or is not showing to grow a base, you need to remove them. If they had maintained a constant contact with their supposed base during the 5 years, they wouldn't have done so badly. Say what you want about the current administration, they do find time to go back to their base, regardless of if it's crookish or not. They go back to their bases. So when their base try to walk out of line, they pull them back in line. The coalition just take everything for granted. Oh, they'll do it back for us again. No, it doesn't work that way. And like I said, there are too many didn't care about the people. The people gives you the power. If you take care of the people, you will always be there. But I guess they'll, when they get a certain amount financial, the people don't matter anymore. They disrespect the voters. And that's the problem in this country.
Let me ask you this, Mr. Crawford. Do you see anyone right now taking over the leadership from David Arthur Granger? If Mr. Granger says, look, that's it. And, he is, I wouldn't say he's an old man. He's still sharp. He's still brilliant. He still has a vision. He still has a plan. I don't know health-wise how he's doing. But if we take that into consideration health-wise, and maybe his family might say, well, David, call it a day. If that happens, who do you see taking over the leadership of the PNC? Or should there be a combined leadership for now? What's your take?
Well, because of the chair of the coalition, they need to have a combined leadership. And yes, Mr. Granger did some good stuff in his term.
He did a heck of a lot of good stuff. 1 second, sir.
Right.
JR, he did a heck of a lot of good stuff. And there are some ministers under his coalition that did a heck of a lot of good stuff, right? There are some agencies under the coalition that did a heck of a lot of good stuff. The Guyana Lands and Surveys, headed by Trevor Ben. And then you have, we got to give the Ministry of Health, that health sector under Valda Lawrence. Look, I don't agree with everything or lots of things with Valda, but we've got to give Jack his jacket, man. The Ministry of Health did a heck of a lot to contain the COVID-19 and other stuff. Health centers, look at health center down on the quarantine. Kildonan, look at Port Morant Hospital, Port Morant Health Center, New Amsterdam, and all these places around the country. So let us not say that David Granger administration did some good things. They did a heck of a lot of good things. More could have been done, yes, but there were also some very lazy ministers of his government. But sorry, JR, go ahead, man. Go ahead, buddy.
Mark said some things. One of the things was that self-raise as soon as they got into office. And you have to call it as you see it. There were some ministries that were lagging. There were some ministries that were doing very well. So, you heard?
Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit, but continue, sir. Continue.
Well, look, there were some ministries that did well. There's some ministries that didn't. And you have to call it as you see it. And like I said, going into office and giving yourself a raise, that was not something that went down good. And in the end, during the election period, we still need clarity, address to the nation as to why. Tell the people why. Those are things that Mr. Granger could have done in a better manner. And I'm still shocked at the way it went down.
And you know what, JR, I agree with you 100%. That immediate post-election saga should have been addressed. And yes, the leader then, David Arthur Granger, should have been coming out and talking to his supporters. Talk to his supporters, right. and I have said this too, that I have said that he should have come out and explained what the heck really happened. And I think that's why a lot of people are upset with him. People still love him, but they're upset with the fact that he went into hiding after. But continue. Some people might be surprised. Some people might be surprised.
Even though he fumbled the ball.
Yeah.
Even though he fumbled the ball at the opportune time, history will write its course. Yes, we are humans. We will forgive, but it hurt the nation, and everything that he did in the 3 years got neutralized now. And I'm hoping that good sense prevail. The older folks need to step away. They could be advisors. Let the younger generation take the mantle.
What is young for you? Lord, who? Identify 2 young ones who are prepared, who have what it takes. Who have what it takes?
Mr. Manza Desir. You have
you think Amanza is ready for that job? Come on, JR. I wish you were on camera right now. Mr. Gentleman. Go ahead. Mr. Gentleman.
You will never know until you're put into the driver's seat. See, that's the problem with Caribbean countries. You have to be old to be ready. No.
Now nobody is saying people have to be old to be ready. I asked a simple question. There's just like you see somebody on the street, somebody fresh on the street, and you throw your car keys and say, hey, come drive this car by. Or hey, go ride this horse. My simple question to you is, do you believe that Amanza Walton
structured as a society? Hence the reason that we're not taking chances. And look where we are.
Where are we?
Nation, look where we are. We're not going anywhere. We're not doing anything. Look at the pandemic, how it's been handled. Right?
Sure.
I mean, there's no safety net for this country. We have the flood. What are they doing? Everything is being done prejudiced. Why? That's where the opposition, now as they're in that position, needs to be very forceful to get things right so everybody could benefit. What we're creating is a wall between two groups of people. And it's going to take one group a very long time to catch up.
You know,
that's why we need forceful leaders.
One of the things that I would say that I'm very cautious these days, maybe because of experience. I'm very cautious to allow my emotions to jump out and endorse or gravitate towards one particular leader or not. I'm not going to do that. I want a leader, Mr. Crawford, Mr. Gentleman. I want a leader to prove his or herself to me that they are dedicated enough to work on behalf of the people. And doing so, you must have a track record of working with the people, for the people, and representing them adequately. And let me give a quick example, Mr. Gentleman Crawford. Obama. A lot of people never heard of Obama. But when they read about Obama, they knew that he was out in the South Side and other parts of Chicago, working the streets, campaigning, working in groups, working with the grassroots people, molding them, mobilizing them, and all these things. And when you look at somebody like that, you see leadership qualities. And I'm saying that for me to call any individual's name as potential leader or a replacement of David Granger, His Excellency David Granger, I want to see more than just academic works. I want to see them grounding with the brothers and sisters on the ground. They must have a track record. I am not prepared to choose a leader out of emotions. Right now, a lot of people are expressing their emotions and their anger for certain reasons, and I could understand that. I'm not going to choose a leader because of that. Sorry, my friend. I ain't going. I want to see more work. I want to see more people. And to me, more persons should get into the race to leadership. Then we'll be able to choose from a pool of individuals. That's all I'm saying. But you're my guest, man. Go ahead. Sorry that I take up some more of your time.
No, that's good. Now there is a particular individual who has a good track record that, if given the opportunity, could be a very good leader for the party.
Who is that? Who is that someone?
I'm not going to call name at this moment. No,
is it a woman or a man?
it's a man. Now,
and that person is about how? That person is about how old? How old? About how old is that person?
Listen, we're not going to go there.
Is that 1 second, sir? Is that person in his 60s or 70s?
No, we don't need no leaders in the 70s, man.
So the person is in his 60s.
Anyway, my friend, we as the coalition group seem more intent in making Guyana a better place. For some reason, we have more logical and open-minded and honest thinking. So here we are, we have to band together, put our differences aside, and stand up and fight the people who are raping this country. The coalition has too many people with chips on their shoulders. They need to be pushed out if they don't want to leave freely. Because every year that go by, we are losing so much ground. Our children, the young ones are coming up, they're shortchanged because we're not being forceful. We have to sacrifice today for tomorrow. At whatever cost, we must be free, we must be a democratic nation. If we are going to play this pity game and sit down and wait for international savior, we'll never be free. And when we do get the freedom, we won't have anything to do with it from this country. It'll be an empty land. Everything will be gone. We'll be right and center. And we are seeing it daily. We have to get aggressive. Whatever means. You said it early. Protest, block the road, whatever the case may be. Whoever is in power must look after everybody in this country. Do not be prejudiced to anybody. We're all Guyanese. We need all the goodies. Not some must have and the rest don't have. And that's what I'm saying. The coalition, when you straighten them out, they get annoyed. They unfriend you on Facebook. Those are girly behaviors.
Who for the coalition unfriended you, JR?
I can tell Aubrey Norton.
Aubrey Norton unfriended you?
All those are girly behaviors, buddy. We are here for our nation, not for our own personal benefit. When you're in public service or you're being around you now, I don't care, brother. Maybe no wonder they never got anything from 92 to now. But that's what I'm saying. We need to, not for, just a small group of people, every Guyanese are entitled to a good life. And the amount of resources this country has, every Guyanese should be living a proper life. Here we are, 90% of the country is suffering.
Let me ask you a question, JR. Why Aubrey Norton unfriended you?
I'm not going to get into the petty stuff, buddy.
All right. Fair enough. I got you. Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, 12 minutes after 10 o'clock.
Because they don't like when you call them out.
So you called Aubrey name as unfriending you. He unfriended you, sorry.
I'm not worried of anybody, my friend. I see it like it is. I'm not making up stories, so I'm not worried. What I'm worried about is the direction of our country. For me, I could care less. I do not have offsprings that going to suffer here. But I look at my fellow country people, and I'm worried about that. What is going to be left there for our generations coming behind us.
Wow. Good evening to Miss Vanessa Kisoon, if she's listening tonight. Vanessa Kisoon got dragged off, so to speak, the stage at Plaisance. And gosh, some names are calling, but I'm not going to get into that. But just good evening, Vanessa Kisoon. Looking towards local government elections, Crawford, what's going on? Are you going to get in the race in Borbees or something? You can't just come on Benschop Radio and some other places and just talk. You got to get into the political ring, so to speak. How you think we're going to get changes if you don't make those changes too, as well, JR? It's time you throw your hat in the race for the local government elections.
Mr. Gentleman, at this juncture, I don't see it coming. I'm still contemplating some other personal.
I hear it. I respect that. But why not get some protest start in Region 6?
We will have to talk about that after.
J.R. Crawford, he and I go way back, quarantine days, Alness Primary School days, Winifred Gaskin Memorial Secondary School days, Queens days, all over. J.R. Crawford, we are friends. We agree sometimes, we disagree sometimes. We remain friends. Hey, thank you so much for your contributions here tonight on Benschop Radio. Is there anything else you'd like to say before you go, JR?
Didn't get.
Yeah, I didn't get you. Sorry. You.
No, we broke up. We lost on that.
Go ahead.
I didn't hear the last.
No, I'm just saying. I'm just saying that your closing remarks, sir.
All I would like to see is for the coalition to come together, put the country's interests above personal needs, throw away these chips that we are walking around with on our shoulder, work for the betterment of all Guyanese, regardless of race, religion, or creed. If we are going to make Guyana better, we need a team effort. What we have seen in the last year should be more than enough to bring us together in the betterment of this country. I mean, we have problems in the judiciary, the executive, all these branches. We need to come together to fix this, so our younger generation will have a better opportunity to be better people. We can go out there with all the resources and be the breadwinner for the Caribbean, but here we are with nothing. So I'm appealing to whoever wants to be the poster boys or girls for the coalition party. They need to learn to be more people friendly and to be more open, and remember that the people are the bosses and not the other way around.
I love that. Well said, J.R. Crawford. Thank you so much for your time, man. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your contributions this evening.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thank you. Wow,
All right, good night.
J.R. Crawford there. What more do you guys want for tonight's program? J.R. spoke his mind about almost everything. And I hope some of those folks in the coalition are watching, those members of parliament, those who want to be leaders, and all these different things, and including Lemon. JR couldn't have said it better in terms of, the pettiness. Some of them in the coalition, pettiness, petty. I'll leave that for some other time, man. Pettiness. They got to strategize better. But tomorrow there's a protest in front of Coffee Square. And this is not the first time, protest in front of Coffee Square over the past year. Gavin Matthews have been calling for protests in front of Coffee Square many a times. But because of how I know how some of those folks in the coalition operate. They feel to think that it is better when they do things, when they initiate things. And so with a Gavin Matthews or someone else going out to stand there and protest, they're not going to do that. They're not going to go and join with others, but they want others to join with them. In politics, it doesn't work that way all the time. You must be able to give and take. You must be able to compromise. And if they were going out when people were calling on them to go out as well, to go out and protest with others, join others. It is not sometimes the other way around, that a couple of them go in front of coffee now and say, y'all come out, y'all come out. It's just like when Gavin Matthews was charged also for that dotish charge of hurting somebody's feelings. Gavin Matthews hardly got that support from the coalition. But when a coalition member was charged with basically the same thing, they're crying out. It's wrong when Gavin Matthews was charged, and it's wrong when that member of parliament for the coalition was also charged. And so the point that I'm making is the coalition members of parliament, the leaders of the coalition, must embrace others too, with others' point of views. Read between the lines, guys. And those members of parliament who feel that for the next year or whatever, that people are not going to get aggressive, not violent, not physical, but aggressive in terms of criticizing them. It's not going to be an easy next year. It's not. That's all I wish to say. Those also members of parliament who don't like to protest in Guyana, but want to protest in another country, feel comfortable jumping on a plane to go and protest in another country, even in this COVID pandemic period. That's not the way you do politics. It is just not the way you do it at all. If you can't protest in your own country, don't tell me you're going in another country to protest about what is happening in the same country that you just left. I don't know, man. I don't know. Let me go and make some tea and clap 2 roti and eat. Let me check some of your comments. Sean Williams, how are you? Peggy Russell, Elias. Charity begins at home, Kurt Paris. That is so true. Protest in your own land. Those who are overseas, nothing is wrong, mind you, nothing is wrong with protesting, you know. Wherever they're protesting, in Brooklyn, in Canada, in England, wherever, it doesn't matter. It's okay to protest. I love a protest. I don't want members of parliament going in another country to say that they're protesting. And they don't even protest in their own goddamn country. I'm against that. That is all I'm against. I'm not against anything else. Protest at home. And I'll be watching who will be jumping on a plane to jump and come to the US to protest. I'll be watching them. And I do hope that the little protest that has started in Guyana recently is not a cover-up to say that they are protesting in Guyana. I hope that's not the case. Somebody mentioned here, Kim Walker, mentioning that they're afraid of jail. Well, if they're afraid of jail, they shouldn't be in politics. That's all. They shouldn't be in politics. Somebody's saying here too, look, who's this person? Lexi boss. Hi, Lexi boss. Lexi looks like a boss. Mark, we need you out protesting too. Hey, I've had days upon days of protesting, dozens upon dozens of locked up and charges and all these sort of things. I recall those lonely days protesting in the hot, hot sun. Oh, for all those years, you still want Mark to protest? We have members of parliament now who are being paid to do their job, to represent the people. Let them represent the people now. I am just a talk show host right now. That is all. I am not on the ground in Guyana. And so I give credit to some of the aggressive folks on the ground. I give credit. I can't sit thousands of miles away and pretend as though I know everything that is happening on the ground. I give those fighters on the ground credit for what they do and those shows that they host as well. Sherrod Duncan and his show, I give them credit. They are on the ground. Others who do their shows, Gavin Matthews, they are on the ground. I am thousands of miles away. I can only offer this sort of support. But if I were there, you know what? It would have been a different story. It would have been Bacchanal all over again with me and the PPP, because they would have been confronted. And as we all know, they do not like to be confronted. And as you all know, I am not afraid to confront them at all, whether in front of office of the president, whether in front of Freedom House, whether in front of the police stations. I've had my days of protesting. That's all I wish to say for now. I've had my days of protesting for now, but I still do protest, right? I still do protest. I've got to go. Otherwise, I'll talk some other stuff. Gary Greenwich, what's going on, boss? Hope all is well. Tonight's program, I want to make this lucidly clear. Tonight's program is not an attack on the coalition. Not because there's any personal hatred towards towards anyone. None whatsoever. And I can speak on behalf of J.R. Crawford as well. It's what you call constructive criticisms. That there are some folks in the coalition MPs who think that they are way better than everybody. It's not going to work. And just go out and just grab a shot for the photo op's sake. That is not politics. I've been around too long to know those who are bluffing and those who are not bluffing. That's all. It's either they get their act together, those who are sleeping in the coalition need to wake up. From a leadership standpoint, we need our leaders or the leaders in the coalition, in the PNCR, to be more forceful. We need them to put their differences aside and work in the best interest of their support base and, by extension, their country. Whenever Congress is held, a democratic process, the people, the members of the PNCR will elect the next leader of the People's National Congress reform. Whether that person is David Granger, whether that person is whoever else that is running for the leadership. Let the party, let the membership decide on that. That's all I'm saying. I know some of you got your guys and your girls that you support. We all have somebody in mind, right? But I just wish to see more people in this race. More people. More. The more, the merrier. And at the end, we'll see where it goes, right? But for now, I've got to go. I'll be back tomorrow, I believe. Same place, same time, right here on 107.1 FM. I'll leave you with a Psycho Andrews. You know, we always leave you with this song. Go out and support Andrews Supermarket in South. I believe it's on Aubrey Barker Road. Go out and support Andrews Supermarket. And Quality Food Mart at Burby's Car Park. Go out and buy your food, support them, support Brewster's Ice Cream, support them. Support those who support you and your community. Support the Village Voice newspaper. I've got to go. God bless you.
It's hard to be at peace with the ones who are so discard. It's hard. Them have a knife in your back and them smile it so broad. Help me to deal with the ones them who said them love me when them really don't. Help me to deal with the fans them kill me flesh when the crowd a shout. Jesus, help me on the battlefield. Jesus, help me on the battlefield. Help me on the battlefield. God, the booby traps with them set is real. I never want to take your glory, Lord. Send your angels to encamp around about me and stand guard. To envy is so easy and to love it is so hard. Let me work for your glory and not for the award. Don't make me ever get caught up in the scream and the applause. And go talk about the blessing and not talk about the Lord. All these things are vanity. I need your reward. Let me be real. Don't put on no facade. Help me to deal with the ones them who said them love me when them really don't. Help me to deal with the fans them give me flesh when the crowd a shout. Jesus, help me on the battlefield. Jesus, help me on the battlefield. Help me on the battlefield. God, the booby traps with them set is real. Sticks and stones can break my bones and words can harm me. They can harm me. When the evil come against me, you'll protect me. You'll protect me. Father, I need the strength of your son. Cause you know my work is not done. Lord, I need that endurance just to finish this race that I run. Help me to deal with the ones them who said them love me when them really don't. And help me to deal with the fans them kill me flesh when the crowd a shout. Jesus, help me on the battlefield. Jesus, help me on the battlefield. Help me on the battlefield. God, the booby traps with them set is real. You tell me if you stand firm, cause every little plan you have a confirm. I know them evil plan turn. In a darkness, me a the lantern. So help me if you deal with the ones that who said them love me when them really don't. Jesus, help me if you deal with the fans them kill me flesh when the crowd a shout. Help me on the battlefield. Jesus, help me on the battlefield. Help me on the battlefield. God, the booby traps with them set is real. Help me to deal with the ones them who said them love me when them really don't. Help me to deal with the fans them kill